Hi, my name is Leah Day, and welcome to this video for the Building Blocks Quilt Along. Today we're stitching Superstar into one of our slash stars. And of course, this block came out completely wonky, so let me give you some tips on marking the quilting design on the block before we get started. So here's my block, and I've already started marking up this quilting design. And just in case you're looking for this printout, you can find it in the Building Blocks quilt pattern, available at leahday.com. But you can see how these two stars look a little different, and that's just simply the nature of the slash star. It's going to be wonky, but we want to try and simulate this design as close as possible on this block. So let me show you what I've done. The first thing you want to do is knock out the background, and the background's very easy. All you do is lay your ruler, any rotary ruler will be fine, on top of the block and measure 1/2 inch from the edge. Mark that line, then measure 1/2 inch from the opposite edge, mark that line, connect the two, and you'll end up with this nice curve. Then you'll lay your ruler again, laying 1/2 inch from the last marked line, mark it again, and again, radiating out so that you've got these lines of echo quilting 1/2 inch apart all the way out. So let me show you how this works with this little area. I haven't marked yet. Lay it down and just make my mark. And then align it with the opposite direction and mark it there. Now come 1/2 inch in from that line, mark again. It's just repeated rows of echo quilting. If you feel like that you can freehand quilt this, that you can stitch these echoes without the straight lines marked, then by all means go for it. I'm just marking this because this was in the design itself, but you can definitely stitch this freehand too. Now you might end up with pockets where you kind of question, okay, do I need to mark some lines in here? You know, when in doubt, mark some lines if you want to. It's totally up to you. I think that, you know, I'll just get a little tick in there, and if I'm coming through that area and it's convenient, I'll go ahead and hit it, but more than likely a spot like that's really not going to show up in this block. Okay, the other thing that I've done as far as marking is I've laid my ruler across, and I did use a light box for this. I generally found the center point, and I used the center point and the lines within the graph as kind of a guide. Now some of these I had to extend longer than what they were drawn here. Some of them I had to extend shorter, you know, shrink them basically. But all it is basically lay this underneath the block, line up roughly the center with where you want the center to be, and then use your ruler to help you line up all these marks. Now you'll notice that I have skipped and not marked all of the lines that don't reach the center. If you'll notice, every 2 sets of lines kind of forms just a point. It's close to the center, but it doesn't actually go all the way into the center. I'm going to freehand quilt these. I decided not to mark them. You don't have to mark every single one. So that's all the marking that I had to do on my block. Now I'm going to baste it so that way these layers do not come undone or wrinkly as I'm quilting, and then we'll get on the machine and get started. Okay, so we're ready to get started on our block, and I am going to basically just stitch the outline of the star. I'm not going to come in and stitch right across. I like this pentagon to remain unstitched in the ditch, not stitched in the ditch, because I like the idea of that superstar in the center having no lines that it crosses. So I'm basically just going to really knock out the outline quilting, and then we can work inside and do those radiating lines within the star. Okay, so to knock out this section first, all I'm doing is travel stitching in the ditch, I should say, not travel stitching, and I'm working my way carefully through this area. You have a lot of decisions with this block as far as how you want to flow through it. You can do that, you know, the outline, the background area first, those 1/2 inch lines apart. I think I'm going to knock out the center section of the block first, so I'm going to travel stitch back over and knock out this line that runs right across it. And with these straight lines, they are pretty long, so you might have to stop right in the center and reposition your hands. And the one thing that I find just a little tricky is whenever I have, you know, colors kind of overlap, like right here, I have an area where I've got fabric B and fabric B, and you can get a little lost, like, okay, where do I stop stitching? Because it's all background is what it looks like. This block is definitely wonky. I wouldn't get too worried about it being, you know, perfect or get nitpicky with it. I really like the randomness actually created by the piecing. I think it looks really interesting. Okay, with that line knocked out, I think I'm just going to start working my way around the block. Come in with a triangle, then come across with these lines that run all the way through the center. Come in with a triangle. I think I'm going to do that all the way around my star to knock it out. So I'm going to speed up the video so you can see how all of that works. Okay, so at this point I think you've kind of got the idea of moving around the block, running across these lines, and then as I knocked out those, I kind of wiggle my way in and hit these points. And as I move around, I'm also knocking out the ditch, and then at times, if I find it convenient, I go on ahead and also knock out these echoes. And so really, as you work through the block, it's going to all kind of get knocked out all at once as you flow through these areas. Now I will say I did already make one mistake with this block. It's very easy to do actually. As I was extending this line, you can see how I came down past the corner of the star. I think it's because you're crossing, you know, the colors, you're kind of going from color to color that, you know, it doesn't really alert you when you're at the edge of the star. So just watch out for that. I'm not too worried about it. It's, you know, when I made the mistake I had to kind of laugh at myself. Because I just said, you know, be careful. I kind of just reminded myself, be careful not to stitch out of the star, and then there I went and did it. So it's one of those things that I think happens pretty easily, or at least with this block. So that's it for quilting our slash star with Superstar. Of course, our quilting guide, what was designed and intended to be marked on this block, is not going to fit perfectly because the block is it's a slash star. We pieced it irregularly. It came together irregularly. It's going to be wonky. That's the intention. I think I wrote that in the pattern like 6 or 7 times. I don't remember how many times I put it in there, but it is intentional. So the quilting guide isn't going to fit exactly, but you can definitely use it as kind of a base. You can kind of start with that idea and modify it as needed to fit your block perfectly. So I really hope that you'll stitch this out, have some fun with it, and definitely post your finished slash star either on the Free Motion Quilting Project or the Building Blocks Facebook group page. Can't wait to see it. My name is Leah Day, and this has been a video for the Building Blocks Quilt Along. Pick up your copy of the Building Blocks quilt pattern and join us as we learn how to quilt and piece 42 beautiful blocks together. You can pick up your pattern at leahday.com. Until next time, let's go quilt.